Hello everyone. Today I am going to speak on hypertension and its pharmacotherapy.
The learning objectives of today's session are: at the end of the session, one must be able to define hypertension and enumerate the categories of hypertension. Classify antihypertensives with examples. Describe the mechanism of antihypertensive action of different antihypertensive drugs. Explain the management of hypertensive crisis. Discuss which drugs are used in combination for treatment of hypertension, and drugs that are more effective in treating patients with special diseases like diabetes mellitus, congestive heart failure, and renal disease.
Hypertension in itself is not a disease, it is a sign, and the definition of hypertension is arbitrary. Elevated blood pressure might be normal in some individuals, while in others it might be abnormal. It is defined by the complications that are produced in a later stage when these patients are not treated. So, according to various guidelines, hypertension is defined as elevated systolic pressure of more than 140 and diastolic pressure of more than 90. In individuals of age more than 60 years, this limit is extended towards 150 in systolic and 90 in diastolic. According to the JNC 8 in 2014, that is the Joint National Committee of USA, the definition of hypertension extends in three stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, where stage 1 is defined as systolic pressure of 140 to 159 and diastolic of 90 to 99. Stage 2 patients are defined as having blood pressure of more than 160 and less than 180, while diastolic pressure of 100 to 109 mm of Hg. Patients with severe hypertension are defined as having blood pressure of more than 180 systolic and 110 diastolic.
The American Heart Association additionally includes a group of patients with pre-hypertension in whom the systolic blood pressure is 120 to 139 and diastolic blood pressure is between 80 to 89. In essential hypertension, the exact cause of increase in blood pressure is not known. However, there are various systems that act in harmony so that the blood pressure is maintained. These systems include the sympathetic nervous system, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, the absorption of salt and water and excretion of salt and water from kidneys, the baroreceptor mechanism, which causes increase or decrease in sympathetic activity and release of natriuretic peptides. So these are the targets for decreasing the blood pressure in the treatment of hypertension, although the exact cause of hypertension is not known. Therefore, drugs that decrease the sympathetic activity like beta blockers, alpha 2 agonists are used to reduce the blood pressure. Similarly, drugs which inhibit the renin-angiotensin system like ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists are used to reduce the blood pressure. The neprilysin inhibitors are drugs that inhibit the natriuretic peptides metabolism so that they are in for a longer duration in the blood, leading to vasodilatory and diuretic effects. Similarly, diuretics decrease the salt and water content in the body, leading to decrease in blood pressure. There are central sympatholytic drugs which decrease the central sympathetic activity and lead to decrease in the blood pressure. So there are a multitude of mechanisms of the antihypertensive drugs by which the blood pressure is reduced.
What happens if we do not treat hypertension? Now elevated blood pressure leads to end organ damage, and depending upon the different organs, different complications are seen. Cerebrovascular diseases in the form of transient ischemic attacks, strokes and encephalopathy are seen in the CNS system. Hypertensive heart disease in the form of left ventricular hypertrophy and congestive heart failure is seen in patients with prolonged untreated hypertension. Coronary artery disease in the form of angina, myocardial infarction, and in severe cases, sudden cardiac death are seen in patients of hypertension. Arteriosclerotic peripheral vascular diseases and retinopathy, dissecting aneurysm, glomerulopathy, and renal failure in kidney. So the cause of hypertension in most of the patients is not known. That is why these patients are labeled as having essential hypertension. Patients with known cause of hypertension are known as having secondary hypertension, where the cause may be some renal disease, pheochromocytoma, hyperthyroidism, or other endocrinal disorders wherein there is elevation in the blood pressure. Where the cause of elevated blood pressure is not known, we call it as essential hypertension. There has been no finding of increase in the sympathetic stimulation or increase in the renin-angiotensin system stimulation in most of these patients. Both systolic and diastolic blood pressure predict the likelihood of target organ damage and complications, as we have seen earlier. The aim of treating the patients of hypertension is to prevent the morbidity and mortality associated with the complications of hypertension and to lower the blood pressure to an acceptable level with minimum inconvenience to the patient. The different cardiovascular risk factors which can lead to the complications like congestive heart failure, myocardial infarction, angina are patients having age of more than 55 years in males and more than 65 years in females, patients with history of premature cardiovascular disease in the family, patients with habit of smoking, patients with history of dyslipidemia, diabetes mellitus, obesity, microalbuminuria or decrease in the glomerular filtration rate, and sedentary lifestyle. Along with all these, hypertension is also one of the major cardiovascular risk factors. When all these risk factors are present in such patients, the preventable risk factors like discontinuation of smoking, treatment of elevated blood sugar levels, treatment of obesity, and elevated blood pressure may lead to better morbidity prognosis in the patients.
Let us have a look at the different classes of drugs used for hypertension. The first class of drugs is diuretics, in which we have thiazides, loop diuretics, and potassium sparing diuretics. The thiazide group of drugs are most commonly used for patients of hypertension in stage 1. These drugs reduce the blood pressure by 8 to 10 mm of Hg and require a time of 2 to 4 weeks for decrease in the blood pressure. These drugs act on the sodium chloride channel and initially decrease the blood pressure by reduction in the sodium and water content of the body. Later on, the water content of the body regains its size and the persistence of fall in blood pressure is due to decrease in the peripheral vascular resistance. The mechanism behind this reduction in peripheral vascular resistance is thought to be the persistent reduction in the sodium levels in the plasma, which leads to decrease in the calcium levels in the smooth muscles, leading to vasodilatation. Another theory uh, supports the opening of potassium channels in the smooth muscles, which also lead to smooth muscle relaxation. The thiazide group of drugs are commonly used in stage 1 hypertension. At low doses like up to 25 milligrams for hydrochlorothiazide, the adverse effects of diuretics are not seen, and at high doses the efficacy is maintained. That is, there is no advantage of using higher dosages than 25 milligrams for hydrochlorothiazide if the blood pressure is not controlled. In such cases, thiazides are combined with other group of drugs like ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or beta blockers. These drugs are also combined with vasodilators. The loop diuretics like furosemide are drugs that can reduce the blood pressure, but the disadvantage with these drugs is that they can cause hyponatremia and activation of renin-angiotensin system, which leads to the failure of the therapy. However, these drugs are useful in patients who are on vasodilators and have edema. The potassium sparing diuretics are generally added to the thiazide group of drugs when the patients have hypokalemia. Otherwise, these drugs are not used alone for treatment of hypertension. Coming to the sympatholytic drugs, we have beta blockers, alpha blockers, mixed alpha plus beta blockers, and centrally acting sympatholytic agents, which are used as antihypertensive drugs. Among the beta blockers, we have non-selective beta blockers like propranolol, timolol. These drugs reduce the blood pressure by acting on the beta 1 receptors, which reduce the force of contraction of heart, leading to decrease in cardiac output. These drugs on prolonged administration leads to decrease in peripheral vascular resistance. The central sympatholytic activity has been also postulated with beta blockers. These drugs reduce blood pressure and were previously used for treatment of hypertension as a first line drug. However, on comparing the newer antihypertensive drugs, these drugs have many shortcomings, like these drugs can cause metabolic disturbances like hyperglycemia. They cannot be given in patients with bronchial asthma. These drugs also lead to increase in the LDL levels and decrease in the HDL levels, causing dyslipidemia. Although these adverse effects are not seen in cardioselective beta blockers like atenolol, metoprolol. Coming to alpha blockers are again divided into the reversible blockers like prazosin, terazosin, and irreversible like phenoxybenzamine, and reversible with non-selective alpha blockade like pentolamine. The reversible selective beta blockers, alpha 1 blockers like prazosin and terazosin, reduce the blood pressure by peripheral reduction of peripheral vascular resistance. However, these drugs on prolonged use can lead to sympathetic stimulation, leading to failure of the therapy. Although this failure is seen more commonly with pentolamine, in which the reflex tachycardia is more enhanced as compared to alpha 1 selective blockers. These drugs are specifically used for emergency hypertensive conditions as well as when there is failure with other drugs for the treatment of hypertension. The mixed alpha plus beta blockers have an advantage that they have additional alpha blockade, leading to more efficacious reduction in blood pressure. Labetalol is an alpha plus beta blocker, while carvedilol has an additional vasodilating activity by its direct action. These drugs are also used, like labetalol is also used for emergency hypertensive condition and in pregnant women. Carvedilol has an additional vasodilatory activity due to which it is efficacious in patients with hypertension with heart failure. The centrally acting sympatholytic agents like clonidine and methyl dopa are commonly used in patients of having with pregnancy. Clonidine acts on the alpha 2 receptors in the CNS in the medulla and leads to decrease in the sympathetic outflow. As it has central action, it also has adverse effects of the CNS. The clonidine withdrawal is one of the major drawbacks with therapy of clonidine, leading to sudden increase in the blood pressure even after stopping one or two dosages of clonidine. Similarly, methyl dopa is metabolized in the presynaptic neurons of the sympathetic system, and it displaces noradrenaline and prevents its reuptake, leading to the sympatholytic activity in the CNS. Methyl dopa is mainly prescribed in women with pregnancy induced hypertension. The other drugs like reserpine is not currently used as an antihypertensive, although it is cheap and it can reduce the blood pressure at low doses without the adverse effects due to which it has been discontinued, like the depression, suicidal tendencies. These adverse effects are only seen in high dosages. Coming to the calcium channel blockers, these drugs are divided into dihydropyridines, verapamil and diltiazem. These drugs block the voltage sensitive calcium channels, leading to arteriolar vasodilation, leading to decrease in peripheral vascular resistance. Therefore, these drugs are effective in decreasing the diastolic blood pressure. Use of these drugs causes reflex sympathetic stimulation, leading to reflex tachycardia and peripheral edema. The peripheral edema is due to the precapillary vasodilation and postcapillary vasoconstriction. These drugs are generally preferred in elderly patients with isolated systolic hypertension. Coming to the renin-angiotensin antagonists, these drugs inhibit the renin-angiotensin system. The angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors are drugs which inhibit the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is a potent vasoconstrictor. It also increases the secretion of aldosterone from the adrenal glands, which leads to sodium and water retention. Angiotensin 2 itself causes sodium and water retention. ACE inhibitors block the formation of angiotensin 2, leading to decrease in the peripheral vascular resistance and excretion of sodium and water. Therefore, ACE inhibitors are generally used in patients who have high renin activity. These drugs can cause angioedema and cough because they also inhibit the metabolism of bradykinin. These drugs are additionally advantageous in patients of diabetes mellitus, post-myocardial infarction, and chronic renal disease. The angiotensin 2 receptor blockers have an advantage that, apart from the advantages that ACE inhibitors have, these do not cause cough and angioedema because they do not affect the metabolism of bradykinin. The direct renin inhibitor like aliskiren is undergoing the phase 3 trials, and it directly inhibits the activity of renin. Coming to the vasodilators, there are arterial and arterial plus venodilators. The arterial vasodilator like hydralazine, phenoldiazepam diazoxide are used for reduction in blood pressure in emergency conditions. These drugs are not commonly used for prolonged therapy because of the sympathetic stimulation that they cause. However, they are used in hypertensive emergencies, mainly hydralazine in eclampsia. Also, hydralazine is useful in patients of heart failure to reduce the afterload, and these drugs can be combined with AC inhibitors or ARBs. Then we have sodium nitroprusside, which is generally used as a drug for emergency hypertension. It causes vasodilation of both arteries and veins, leading to reduction in preload and afterload. Therefore, in patients with congestive heart failure, this action is beneficial. It is useful in aortic dissection and myocardial infarction as well. This drug has a very short half-life and is given by IV route for mitigation of high blood pressure for a short period. Let us have a look at the hemodynamic effects that these classes of drugs have on the different systems. The diuretics do not have any effect on the heart rate, cardiac output, but they decrease the total peripheral resistance. There is no or minimum reduction in the plasma volume, which is later on regained after prolonged therapy. There is increase in the plasma renin activity because of the reflex sympathetic stimulation. Among the sympatholytic drugs, the centrally acting drugs decrease the heart rate and cardiac output and the total peripheral resistance because of decrease in the sympathetic activity. However, there is reflex increase in the plasma volume, and the sympatholytic activity is also reflected in the form of decrease or no effect on the plasma renin activity. The alpha blockers reflexly cause tachycardia, increase the cardiac output, but owing to their effect on the peripheral blood vessels, there is decrease in total peripheral resistance. There is also reflex increase in the plasma volume, and because these drugs do not affect the alpha 2 presynaptic receptors, there is no increase in plasma renin activity. Among the beta blockers, the beta blockers that have no intrinsic sympathomimetic activity, these drugs decrease the heart rate and cardiac output, and on prolonged therapy decrease the total peripheral resistance. They can increase, or there might be no effect on the plasma volume, and the plasma renin activity is decreased because of their the blockade of beta 1 receptors in the kidney. Among the arterial vasodilators like hydralazine, these drugs cause reflex sympathetic increase in the activity, leading to increase in heart rate and cardiac output, and because these are vasodilators, they cause decrease in total peripheral resistance. There is reflex increase in plasma volume and plasma renin activity. The calcium channel blockers, depending upon whether they are dihydropyridines or drugs that like diltiazem and verapamil that have inhibitory activity in the heart, the calcium channel blockers like dihydropyridine will cause reflex sympathetic stimulation, leading to increase in heart rate and cardiac output, while diltiazem and verapamil will have inhibition on these two parameters. Both the group of drugs will cause decrease in total peripheral resistance. There might be some increase in plasma volume due to reflex sympathetic stimulation and also increase in plasma renin activity. The AC inhibitors have no effect on the heart rate and cardiac output, but they decrease the total peripheral resistance by blocking the action of angiotensin II, because it is not synthesized in presence of AC inhibitors. There is no effect on the plasma volume, and there is reflex increase in the plasma renin activity. The angiotensin receptor blockers, similar to ACE inhibitors, have the same effect on the hemodynamics. Let us have a look at the different diseases which might be present along with hypertension, which will define which drug may be prescribed and preferred over the other drugs for treatment of hypertension. Patients with left ventricular hypertrophy have increase in the sympathetic stimulation and renin-angiotensin system activation. Therefore, ACE inhibitors, ARBs, and calcium channel blockers are prescribed in these kind of patients along with who are also having hypertension. Calcium channel blockers have shown promising effect in the patients of left ventricular hypertrophy when used for a prolonged time. They reduce the left ventricular mass. The calcium channel blockers are preferred in asymptomatic atherosclerosis patients with hypertension because their site of action is the arterioles. Patients with renal diseases like microalbuminuria, renal dysfunction, glomerulopathy, patients with diabetes and renal dysfunction, all these patients are benefited with ACE inhibitors or ARBs, which slow down the renal pathology. Patients with previous stroke, in these patients, the drugs like ACE inhibitors, ARBs, and diuretics are preferred. Patients with previous myocardial infarction, we have beta blockers along with ACE inhibitors and ARBs. These drugs prevent the excessive sympathetic stimulation, which leads to the cardiac remodeling and which can be later on leading to heart failure. Also, patients with coronary artery disease and are benefited with the same group of drugs. For angina pectoris, we have beta blockers, which are generally used in patients with stable angina. In patients with variant angina, we have calcium channel blockers. In patients with heart failure, the cardiac remodeling is prevented by drugs like ACE inhibitors, ARBs, beta blockers. Along with these drugs, the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists also prevent the cardiac remodeling. The diuretics are also useful as they decrease the excess plasma volume. In patients with end-stage renal disease, proteinuria, we have ACE inhibitors which halt the progression of the renal disease. For peripheral artery disease, we prefer angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors and calcium channel blockers. In patients with isolated systolic hypertension, we have ACE inhibitors, ARBs, CCBs, and diuretics. So all classes of drugs can be given. In patients with metabolic syndrome, the drugs that do not affect the metabolic processes are to be preferred, which include the ACE inhibitors, ARBs, and calcium channel blockers. In patients with diabetes mellitus, the same group of drugs along with diuretics can be used, while diuretics at high dosages are not recommended, which can cause hyperglycemia. In patients with diabetes mellitus with proteinuria, ACE inhibitors and ARBs are preferred. In patients with hyperaldosteronism and hypertension, the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists like spironolactone are preferred. Pregnant women along with hypertension are one of the subgroups where very few drugs are prescribed, among which we have calcium channel blockers and alpha-methyl dopa. The cardioselective beta blockers may be tried in patients, pregnant women. Among these, labetalol is considered very safe. Let us have a look at the contraindications of the classes of drugs which should be considered before the patient is being prescribed a class of drug. The diuretics can cause increase in the serum calcium levels. Therefore, in patients with gout, we cannot use diuretics, that is thiazides. These group of drugs can also lead to disturbances in the metabolic processes. They cause hyperglycemia, increase in the LDL level, decrease in the HDL levels. These drugs can cause fluid loss, therefore cannot be used in patients pregnant. These drugs themselves cause hypercalcemia, so in conditions of hypercalcemia, these drugs are not to be used. These drugs themselves cause loss of potassium, so hypokalemia patients are to be in hypokalemia patients, these drugs are to be avoided. These drugs are also avoided in patients with erectile dysfunction because these drugs are known to cause the erectile dysfunction. The mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists primarily are potassium sparing drugs. Therefore, patients with hyperkalemia or advanced renal disease are not to be given the drugs like spironolactone. Also, other drugs which can cause hyperkalemia like ACE inhibitors, ARBs, and diabetic patients are to be these drugs are to be avoided in such patients. The ACE inhibitors are contraindicated in pregnancy because these drugs are known to cause the teratogenic effect in the fetus. Angioneurotic edema patients, again ACE inhibitors can cause puff and angioedema. Therefore, patients prone to these conditions are not to be prescribed these drugs. ACE inhibitors can also cause hyperkalemia. Therefore, patients with hyperkalemia are not to be prescribed these drugs. Bilateral renal artery stenosis patients treated with ACE inhibitors respond in the form of renal failure. Therefore, ACE inhibitors are contraindicated in bilateral renal artery stenosis. The contraindications of any ACE inhibitors are also true for angiotensin receptor blockers. Coming to calcium channel blockers, that is dihydropyridines, these drugs cause reflex sympathetic stimulation, therefore contraindicated in patients with arrhythmias and tachycardia and the patients of heart failure. However, the verapamil and diltiazem group of calcium channel blockers, they cause depression of the heart, electrical activity of the heart leading to bradycardia. Therefore, the patients with AV block, severe left ventricular dysfunction and heart failure are to be, these drugs are not to be given in patients with AV block, severe LV dysfunction and heart failure. The beta blockers, these drugs are not to be given in patients with asthma and AV block. Although beta 1 selective blockers are said to be safe in patients of asthma, this activity is not true when higher dosages of cardioselective beta blockers are given. Therefore, one can prefer other drugs other than beta blockers in patients of asthma. As the beta blockers reduce the heart rate by by blocking beta 1 receptors in the heart, these drugs are not to be given in patients with AV block. Along with these contraindications, the non-selective beta blockers have a varied adverse effect profile, like they interfere with the metabolism leading to hyperglycemia, disturb lipid profile. Therefore, these drugs are cautiously given in patients with metabolic syndrome, glucose intolerance, diabetes. The exercise tolerance is also reduced with beta blockers. Therefore, athletes and physically active patients should not be given these drugs. Patients with again COPD, similar to asthma, these drugs are avoided. Again, patients with depression, as the beta blockers, mainly propranolol, has central effects. Patients with depression should not be given these drugs. The alpha blockers are avoided in patients with heart failure because they can cause reflex sympathetic stimulation. The central sympatholytic drugs can cause central effects, which therefore these drugs are avoided in patients with depression, as they also cause the sympatholytic actions. Patients with AV block are not to be given these drugs. These drugs themselves can cause erectile dysfunction and xerostomia. Therefore, in such conditions, these drugs are avoided. Now, let us see the different aspects of the antihypertensive drugs with regards to their uses in different disorders and the precautions to be taken while giving these drugs. The thiazide group of drugs are generally preferred in patients with hypertension along with edema, which may be associated with heart failure, liver cirrhosis, chronic kidney disease, nephrotic syndrome. These drugs are also preferred in patients with hypertension along with nephrotic diabetes insipidus. Patients with renal stones, that is calcium stones, uh, as these drugs can cause hypercalcemia and prevent the excessive loss of calcium, the calcium crystals are benefited. The patients with kidney stones with calcium crystals are benefited. These thiazide group of drugs are generally preferred in patients of old age and not preferred in patients who are having renal dysfunction, that is their GFR less than 30 to 40 ml per minute. These drugs can be used as an add-on with loop diuretics in heart failure patients and generally combined along with the AC inhibitors or potassium sparing diuretics to prevent the hypokalemia. The loop diuretics are generally not used for treatment of hypertension, but in compelling conditions like acute pulmonary edema or edema due to other diseases, these drugs can be used. Because of their effect on the electrolyte leading to hyponatremia and hypokalemia and effect on other electrolytes as well, these drugs are not preferred in long-term use of hypertension. These drugs are also not used for hypertension for another reason, that is they are having a short activity and can cause rebound hypertension by reflex sympathetic activity. But these drugs are valuable in patients with malignant hypertension and renal compromise. The cardioselective beta blockers are not the first line of drugs for treatment of hypertension. However, when the patient is also suffering from heart failure, these drugs can be used for treatment of hypertension. These drugs are also used when there is coexisting angina, the tachyarrhythmias, patients with atrial fibrillation or migraine. Because these drugs decrease the heart rate, they are to be avoided in patients with bradyarrhythmias and AV block. These drugs are also not preferred in patients with asthma and patients with peripheral vascular disease, as these can cause peripheral vasoconstriction. The acute heart failure patients require sympathetic stimulation, and beta blockers are contraindicated in such patients. Beta blockers are also not to be used in patients with depression and psoriasis. Among the non-selective beta blockers, we have propranolol, which is preferred in patients with hypertension with migraine, and this is one of those beta blockers which has many unwanted effects due to blockade of beta 2 receptors. Among the alpha 1 selective blockers like prazosin, terazosin, these drugs are preferred in hypertension with old age males who also have benign prostatic hyperplasia. These drugs can cause reflex sympathetic stimulation and the loss of the antihypertensive action. However, phentolamine and phenoxybenzamine are the drugs which are used in emergency hypertensive conditions like pheochromocytoma and clonidine withdrawal. The alpha plus beta blockers are preferred in patients with heart failure, mainly the carvedilol, which reduces both preload and afterload. These drugs are also preferred in patients with peripheral artery disease because they cause peripheral vascular uh, resistance reduction. Labetalol is the drug of choice in treatment of pregnant women with hypertension. The central sympatholytic drugs are generally preferred in patients with hypertension in pregnancy, and these drugs are not preferred as in other types of hypertension. The calcium channel blockers, they are preferred in patients of hypertension with angina and in patients who are having increased heart rate like atrial fibrillation, where verapamil and diltiazem are preferred. The ACE inhibitors are drugs of choice for treatment of hypertension. These drugs are more so prescribed in patients along with heart failure and diabetic nephropathy. These drugs can cause cough and angioedema, which are to be looked after once the therapy is started. Along with these adverse effects, the first dose hypotension can be seen, due to which the dosages are to be started with low doses. Hyperkalemia is one of the common adverse effects. Contraindications of ACE inhibitors are pregnancy, bilateral renal artery stenosis, and patients with impaired renal function. The angiotensin receptor blockers have similar usage in patients of hypertension as that of ACE inhibitors. However, cough and angioedema is not seen in their profile. These drugs are not superior to ACE inhibitors and may be used when the patients of ACE inhibitors show the adverse effects of cough and angioedema. Similar to ACE inhibitors, these drugs are contraindicated in pregnancy. Among the vasodilators, we have hydralazine. This drug is not preferred in treatment of hypertension. However, it may be used in patients in hypertensive emergencies. Because of the reflex sympathetic stimulation, this drug does not show prolonged efficacy when given for treatment of hypertension. The minoxidil is a drug that causes hypertrichosis, due to which it is not preferred in treatment of hypertension. However, in patients with alopecia, this drug is used for increasing the hair growth. The sodium nitroprusside is preferred in patients with hypertensive emergencies owing to its short half-life and immediate hypotensive action. At high dosages, it can lead to cyanide intoxication, due to which it is not preferred for treatment of malignant hypertension over a prolonged period of time. So far I have talked about what is hypertension, how the blood pressure is maintained in the body, what are the different complications if the blood pressure remains high for a prolonged period of time, the different classes of drugs that are used for treatment of hypertension and their mechanism, their contraindications, indications, and precautions that are to be taken with these drugs. I will be discussing about the pharmacotherapy of hypertension in the next video. Thank you.